Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special stream. As you know, tomorrow is Halloween, and in celebration, I thought it'd be good to go back to the old roots, the old days of what first got me into the horror stuff. You know, monsters, ghosts, aliens, and my early childhood experiences. Now, unfortunately, or maybe rather fortunately, as some would see it, I have not had an actual encounter with any ghosts or aliens as much as I want. And don't want, technically, because, of course, usually those end bad. Uh, and I'll tell you a bit more about that. Okay, sorry that's really shaky, I don't know why. As you can tell, I moved stuff around a little. Uh, Instead of my wall, you're just seeing a bunch of stuff, and I guess, doing so, like it's not even in this new spot which I'm in, so yeah, I should do that. Like, I just noticed that this morning, didn't really have time to think about that, but yes. Now, of course, I'll be telling you about the stuff and drawing as I go along, and just to just telling you so you can learn a bit more about me, why I draw monsters and stuff. Of course, my hope is to make it more action oriented things. I'm hoping to go into comics. But for now, it's really fun to draw the most horrific monsters I can think of. And also, not just horrific, but intriguing. Because that is how I feel about actual cryptids. They intrigue me, they captivate me, and such, and such, and such. Now, our first story starts at a very young age. About, I'd say, I was in 4th or 5th grade. And, hold on. I remember, I can't remember why, but we were told to check out books in the library. And for some reason I had gravitated towards the area where they had all sorts of things. Well, hmm. Now that I think about it, it was probably the idea of dinosaurs and the books and books related to that. And I just went over to the next section. But I was interested in dinosaurs. In fact, Jurassic Park has and is still my favorite movie because of that fact, because of that intrigue of dinosaurs. And I remember I went over a few sections away from the dinosaurs book and I checked out it was a section where they had stuff about strange things, aliens, monsters, ghosts. And I checked out a book, and I cannot remember the name of this book, unfortunately. I have tried looking it up a few times, but I can only partly remember the title and the information. I remember they had all sorts of artworks throughout the book for detailing each story. And the book documented what is believed to be real different levels of alien encounters. Of course, you have first encounter, second encounter, third encounter, fourth encounter, fifth encounter, maybe even a sixth encounter. I don't know. I don't read as much into such things anymore. I do not have time, unfortunately. But the book really captivated me. Really, I don't know how to describe it. I just checked it out because I thought it was interesting. And it had a very adverse effect on me. Uh, I believe that, well, of course, as you can tell, different aliens encounters, this would go into abductions. And, of course, me being a kid, not knowing much better about the world, I was so scared that an alien would come for me. I would be abducted. I was so fearful of the idea. But, and this did not simply resulting in, and this had a very special fear within me. Unlike other things, such as, I don't know, ghosts, Bigfoot, other things that would terrify me as well, aliens had a very special kind of fear within me. This is just sketch. But they had a special type of fear within me. As in, with those situations, it was circumstantial. You're not going to deal with a ghost if you don't live in a house that is haunted. You're not going to deal with a Bigfoot attack if you do not live in the woods or happen to come across one in the woods. There's certain things like those. There are elements you can control. You can just not be, you can avoid them. But with aliens, they come from space. They choose their targets at random, and, well, you could be chosen at any time. That was basically my idea. And I remember one of these stories really got to me because, actually, let me look it up real quick. Let me look up the actual name of it so I can give an actual detailed, insight on this. Yes. It's the story of Frederick Valentik. I might have said that wrong. But if you are familiar with aliens, you would know this story. But if you are not, I shall engage it. The man was flying. Of course, I have the details in front of me, but I want to tell it from memory. The man was flying a pilot. He was a pilot. He was a military pilot. He was flying off the coast of somewhere. I do not recall where. It looks like it was in Australia, I believe. Yes. But during the flight, he started to report. It was a training exercise. He started to report an unidentified craft above him. Now, he was talking to air traffic control, and they did not detect anything strange. They simply told him, "We're not seeing anything," and yet he continued to be adamant that there was an object there. Now, one could obviously, with this information, just trace it to being scared, maybe seeing something that's not really there. But you have to remember, this man's an experienced pilot. He should know a lot about aircrafts. His credentials definitely help him in proving the realness of the case. And the events I'll go into also kind of prove why I believe this is a very evident case. He kept reporting it. Eventually he saw it disappear, but then it reappeared right above him. The last transmission to go away from him was simply metal. Sound of metal scraping. And it's just that thought. He was never seen again, never heard from again. And it was this idea that at any moment, out of my control, out of the feeling of powerless, that these beings of much greater technology than I could come down and take me. It's a horrifying thought, even to an adult. Of course, I'm not as scared of that idea as much as I used to be, but it still is terrifying. I feared what things they would use me for. You hear the other tales of abduction. Well, usually they do not sound fun. They involve probing, and it was definitely a scary idea. Is it that these things would harm me? Who knows what they want? Who knows what they do to me? Maybe stick their finger up my butt. But it was very terrifying for 10-year-old me. Not a fun thought. I eventually did get over it a little, as I'm not scared of it. But at the time, the idea was so evident within me that I found it hard to sleep. I found it hard to be alone because I thought at every moment I was asleep or alone, I would be vulnerable to being taken. That somehow being with others would mean the aliens are less likely to get me. Which I think stemmed from the idea that most alien abductions come from times when, or not just like times of isolation, but also that they try not to be seen. You know, they seem like they don't want to be seen. Maybe they make it a little evidence. But I thought that as long as there was someone I had a witness, I was safe. That was my only coping, I guess. Perhaps. What you could call it. As you know, is the music a little too loud? Okay, never mind. I'm gonna turn this down a little because it's capturing the fan a little. And of course, on recordings, I'll turn down the music as well. But that was my first introduction to aliens. Of course, I still read myself. I still continue to creep myself out. There are many other stories that are in that book and others that definitely creep me out, made me heighten this fear. And yet, despite being so heightened, this fear being so prevalent, I kept reading. It's because I saw more than just the fear, I also saw the infatuation. I do not know, I cannot explain it perfectly why I have such an interest in the supernatural. I simply do. Maybe it's because of my wonder that I still retain childlike wonder even at now. Of course, as an artist, I have that imagination that most people report in children. But it's just something that fascinated me. And this, of course, had a big impact on my life. I don't know what I'm drawing here. I'm drawing that love light. Obviously, later down the road, I would come to accept I still love any media that has to do with extraterrestrials. And for a time, I would continuously watch these videos on YouTube. I don't watch them anymore, sadly, partially because I'm more skeptical. I still believe in aliens wholeheartedly, but by the individual evidence that is presented on the internet, I am skeptical, and will not know until I see it myself. That moves us on to our second topic. I will try to, actually no. I'll continue this drawing and then we will move on to our second topic of things. This alien is very buff, as you can see. Do you think aliens have nipples? That's a question. Honestly, like, I'm trying to do this serious voice, but I can't. You know, it's just that aliens truly frighten me. The idea that there is some unknown species across the world ready to, millions, possibly thousands at least, years that are technically ahead of us. I only say thousands because it definitely feels like after 1,000 years, or especially lately, that we've been making such technological progress. There's a larger incentive for space travel. And although there's enough of an incentive on our own planet, think about it. When I was born, the idea of a smartphone, literally this thing, a computer device, so tiny that it can play games on, was not thought of 20 years ago, back or even around the time when I was born, which was about 19 years ago, almost. Within a few weeks, it will be 19. But yes, we are technologically advancing at a rapid pace. You know, one technology is known, you're able to unlock another bunch of other technologies using it. So, the idea frightened me. And of course, others would too. Others would frighten me as well. Aliens, mostly. The stories of the creepiness, that feeling of missing time, the nightmares that people experience, not knowing if they are truly nightmares or simply more visits from these extraterrestrial creatures. But yes, the thought frightened me, and still does a little to this day, to be honest. Overall, it was very interesting to learn about the very large amount of encounters depicted in that one singular book. And to be honest, revisiting some of them, I definitely think there was a bit of truth to them. Are there, or they are the most likely out of all encounters to be true. Because a lot of them have a lot of details that make it hard to debunk them. You know, certain things, like whether it be evidence left behind, other eyewitnesses' accounts, or just the credibility of the person. Like with that one I was going over, Frederick. He disappeared. He's never been seen again. What does he have to gain? Sure, maybe you can argue that he wanted the fame. But what good is the fame if you're not around to enjoy it? He's gone. And also, there is no wreckage. He didn't crash. They never found the wreckage as far as I know today. It's such things like that, like other things. The Bermuda Triangle. The weird ongoings. Now, we know that, I'm a little less skeptical about a specific area. It could be a boatload of things as well. There are a boatload of other factors that aren't supernatural that we just didn't know as much. You know, and I doubt these phenomenon would be specific to that area. But yeah, aliens, they really terrified me. They kept me up a lot at night. And for a time, whenever I was not home alone, I found it hard to pee with the door closed because I thought as soon as I opened that door, there'd be a bunch of aliens waiting for me and they'd take me. And at this time, I was roughly about 10 or 11, or 9 or 10 actually. And so my sister would have been in high school, and she would sometimes not be there when I was home. I'd have a lot of nights when I was alone, and it was just terrifying. I got used to it, especially. There's no there's no big fear, and more realistic. But yeah, aliens. My next fear, builds upon that. I was roughly around the same age, and it was the spring break of that time. I went over to my friend's house, and, well, he was a family friend. And we were watching a movie. It was a scary movie. I don't know why they were watching it, but it was my first time of hearing it, and I was a ghost. I was into ghosts at the time. Like I said, I had been checking out the books from the library, going over this stuff, and they fascinated me. Hold on, I'm trying to get together my thoughts. But we were watching Paranormal Activity 4. If anyone knows of the Paranormal Activity, what uses the found footage style of work, they know a lot. I don't know. They probably know where I am going. But if you have not seen the movie, I will describe it. Throughout the movie, they kind of started to notice paranormal phenomena and capture a bunch of things on their security cameras, or any kind of camera really. And either they already had a camera system, or they would put one in as they go on. But in the fourth one, towards the end, towards the climax of the movie, there was a ghost woman, at least as I remembered it. She had killed. And of course, if you're familiar with these movies, usually the end of the movies has all the characters dying. you know. And towards the end, she had snapped one of the father's neck, and she was kidnapping a young boy in the family who had some paranormal connection to her. For some reason, I do not fully understand the lore of it. It was its own lore. I recommend you go watch it yourself if you are interested. At least the first one. But she killed the father, killed a bunch of other characters, and by snapping the neck, killed the mother by it was the boyfriend she killed by snapping the neck. The mother she dropped down on the ground. The father would be killed, but I think he was kind of vague. Like more vague. Now I remember, he's dragged off into darkness, and of course implying that he's dead. But, of course the ghost woman was very terrifying. But by the end of the movie, she changed her shape. She very little resembled a human being. She was more like a possessed demon. She looked very much like this, but a lot more scarier. And the very final shot of the movie was her lunging at the camera, darkened eyes and mouth pitched as night, and the camera cutting off. Now, I knew some horror movies were based off of true stories. I didn't know the extent. I'd only seen advertisements at that point. I had never actually watched a truly scary movie, although with a few exceptions. I will go over this much later, but at the time, they were just movies. Before I got into the paranormal stuff, you know? I knew a bit about them, only relatively new. But I knew of the Found Footage. I didn't know too much about the Paranormal Activity franchise. This was the first movie I had watched from that. And I thought it was another one of those true stories type things. Well, to an extent, it was true. So I had convinced myself that this ghost woman, as well as another bunch of women in the movie who were ghosts, because there was a scene where it's in the dark and she pans and there's literally an entire crowd of these like ghostly women who look possessed and, with these darkened eyes. I thought they were gonna come for me. Like I said, I was at a friend's house. I slept in the living room and I could not barely sleep. I feared that the woman would come for me. I remember thinking that if I looked over into the back sliding room glass door, she would be sitting there, pressing her face against the glass, staring at me. Even if her eyes are black as night and I cannot tell any difference, I would know she was truly looking at me. Staring at me, wanting to take me like they did the little boy in the movie. It's definitely a horrifying thing. And this lack of sleep, combined with the alien things about abductions, definitely terrified me. There were some nights I barely got any sleep, only a couple of hours, because I just couldn't help but see all the scary things in the shadows. This lasted for at least the rest of the school year, if I remember correctly. A lot of sleepless nights. And as I'll say, it was this idea of things that were out of my control, that I was powerless against, because it's a ghost, They don't have physical form, they cannot be hurt, they cannot be defended against. I am powerless. As I told you, I saw the ghost woman break necks, lift people off the ground and drop them, and perform other horrifying acts that were not possible for a human easily, and it terrified me. That definitely kept me up a while. Sorry. But yes, the idea that life can be taken from you so quickly terrified me. And, of course, this would be terrifying to anyone, the idea. But as a kid, you don't really know any better. You You don't think of the what if. You think of the is. You think of it as in it is going to happen, not a it could happen. So you just paranoid. You don't know much better, other than it will happen. And of course, like I said, I thought the movie was based off a true story. So I thought the women were out there somewhere taking kids. You know? And of course, there is a real definition of that. I'm not going to say it on, you know, live stream, but you probably know what word I'm thinking of. Horrified me. Like I said, there with alien things, there are certain things that you can prevent by avoiding the circumstances. Like you can avoid getting robbed. Let's say you're going into a very sketchy neighborhood. There's a lot of graffiti, there's a lot of crime. Like the neighborhood I live in, like there's a lot of, I do get a lot of like emails from the school about, crime, certain events, because they want to keep us updated. But if I were to go on a walk, I could like prepare myself. I could be like, okay, here's like some pepper spray or something I can use to defend myself, or maybe I keep to certain areas that are very crowded where someone will see me if I happen to run into trouble. And, it's just the circumstantial things that you can do to prevent it from happening. With this, or, in these situations, you can defend yourself. Like with this, the ghosts and the aliens, it's just things that you can't really defend yourself against properly because they don't follow our rules. The aliens, they're more technologically advanced. There have been like some situations where people have shot at aliens and it just does nothing. Or, they retaliate. They're gonna retaliate, you're gonna retaliate with their advanced technology and they probably have better weapons. If it goes, it's like, maybe the possessed lady you can shoot, but if she's possessed, it's not really gonna do much. Maybe it'll take her out for a few minutes, but like they're gonna keep coming for you. And if a regular ghost, such as, you look into Ghost, you hear like things where people have been reportedly attacked by a ghost. They don't really have a form you can defend yourself against. Like if they are gonna throw a punch at you, like you can't throw a punch back. They're just gonna hurt you in their own ways. It was definitely that thought that kept me up at nights. Just the constant. It wasn't just like when I was sleeping. It was just constant. Any moment now, I could be taken away. And I did find some comfort in the idea that as long as someone else was around, maybe it wouldn't happen to me. But yeah. It's just very terrifying. And a lot of, I will say, I do know, like, I now know that the Paranormal Activity franchise is not one of those found like actual based on true story movies. But there are some, like the Conjuring stories, although exaggerated, they do relate to real cases. And other things, I remember, I think I looked into a Blair Witch Project. I can't remember. I think I found something about like there was an actual allusion to like people who kept go missing in some woods. Yeah. 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 Cause the house in question in that movie is a real thing. It's a real house in the woods, abandoned. Yeah. It's like in other stories like that where it's like it is real to a certain extent. that kind of like just terrified me. Of course, because you don't really, especially as a kid, you don't really know how much they embellish it. You know, you just think that it's like, it's almost all completely true. You don't realize that they exaggerate it to such a degree for entertainment. You know, like, I was watching this one video about the Warrens, and it kind of like talked about how one of the cases that they're really famous for, they were barely even involved. Uh, because like but because people associate it with the Warrens, you know, the movie acts it like they played a hyperactive role in this situation. Other things like Annabelle. Uh, God, I gotta fix that. I'm sorry if it's shaky. I can't control it completely. I will try to do something to fix it after the stream, or maybe during the break. Uh, but yeah, just Annabelle. You learn the real story is a bit, scarier than you think. But if you, you know, are as portrayed in movies, but it is, there is a lot there with the doll. That doll is supposedly responsible for a lot of pain that has caused to, like, you know, impacted people severely. Some people, the original owners of the doll are probably scarred for life because of it, because of like the idea probably felt really scary to them. Yeah, you knew. Yeah, we're going a little faster than this than I hope. I think, I was practicing like which stories to go over in my head. I guess I could go with like a few ghost stories. Uh, Obviously, as a kid, I started to get into. When I started to get into ghosts, I looked up all the YouTube videos, and I didn't know they were like 99% of them were fake. Like I knew a few of them were fake, but I didn't think 99% of them were. Uh, but yeah, they really creeped me out. And yeah, like some of them were legitimately scary. Some of them I do like think are still real. Like some of the ones were like talking about dogs or cats like looking at things that aren't there. I mean, sure you could attribute that to a fly, but there's also like something there, like constant things. You know, other stories would also creep me out, like shadow people and sleep paralysis. Like the idea of just waking up, not being able to move. And that's another thing with the alien thing. It's like, if I fall asleep, I'll wake up, I won't be able to move, and something will be standing over me. Yeah. And honestly, this like lack of sleep thing, uh, did have one benefit. I have really good night vision. Not a joke. Like really good. My eye. I don't know. It's not just night vision, but basically my eyes absorb a lot of light than most. I feel like I have an easier time with low brightness things than others. And there are a few examples of that where it's like, I remember I showed a while back. I was like showing some people a meme on my phone, and I turned up the brightness to like a fourth of the max brightness, and they were like, I can't see that. And it's like, really? Like, my phone is constantly on like minimal brightness. Right now it's on like the lowest possible brightness. Same thing with my computer. And I don't know, I can say like the window blind is closed, but even so, I can still like see. And basically that's not really saying like overall, like in darkness. That's just saying like I can see this light. It's not being heavily overpowered by the outdoor light, despite being on like mixed minimum brightness. And this can also be attributed to like things like in the morning, kind of just sometimes don't turn on the lights like I'm doing. I get out of the shower, my lights are off. I go all the way over there onto the other side of the room. I put my laundry in my hamper. I come back. Well, on my way back, I stop, grab my toothbrush and stuff, and start brushing my teeth, and then I come over here and turn on the light. And I do all that in like complete darkness, with only the street lights from outside coming in. And other things, it's also like a certain familiarity with an area. Like, of course, I can't see perfectly. And another like piece of evidence is like going outside sometimes. Like if on a really bright day, literally burns my eyes. It's like, sure, um, you can attribute that to me being somewhat of an indoor person. You know, spend a lot of time playing games indoors. But it's not like it's like all the time. It just takes a minute, like my eyes to get adjusted to having so much light come in. It's like I can, and other people will be like, I can't see it, I can't see it, I can't see it, and it's just like, what do you mean? I can see it just fine. Like, sure, you know, maybe it's a little dark, but it's already at like half maximum brightness. And, you know, like, what more do you need? I don't know. But yeah, that's the benefit of being kept up all night by Spooky Ghost. Oh, and of course, like, this had some negative effects, like lack of sleep is always bad, and of course, just the lack of sleep would make the paranoia, you know, even worse a bit. But luckily for me, it would kind of stop as soon as summer came down. I think it was just because I went to bed later, and it was like I didn't have school. It's probably still a bit into the summer that this kept happening, but I think like after that summer, it was kind of just like a acceptance kind of thing. Maybe also kind of less consumption of that media, like scary stuff, because I was no longer able to go to the library and check out the books. Uh, Still like reading about that stuff even now. In similarity, I also had similar experiences with Bigfoot. Uh, that if I like went into the woods searching for him and I found Bigfoot, it'd tear me apart because you hear certain stories like one of these stories called Rock Ape Canyon, uh, or Ape Canyon, yeah, that's what it is, where these guys were like prospecting. Let me draw this out. I know this is like an art channel, but like I don't know. I feel like with Halloween, so these guys were prospecting, and they were staying in a cabin, of course. And one of those days, they noticed like a strange creature, and they shot it. They shot it. Body was never really recovered. I think it was like it fell off a cliff. Uh, but these prospectors reportedly were attacked by unknown beings. Like, basically, it's believed they were Sasquatch. Uh, from all over. Like, they are having rocks thrown at them. They believe that the Bigfoot were, like, jumping on the roof of the canyon. Yeah. Just imagine this is a Bigfoot. Yeah. Up, down, 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 up, down. But yeah, they were like moving about the cabin, just harassing these prospectors, and of course they were shooting at the Bigfoot, and you know, trying to defend themselves. But so there's just stories of violence with Bigfoot, like this. Uh, Definitely, I still wanted to find Bigfoot. You know, I still do. But there's also like an idea. It's like What if it becomes violent when I find it? You know? But yeah, that's just my thing with Bigfoot. I really do want to go Bigfoot hunting again, like searching for Bigfoot and stuff. I don't know how I'd be able to find time with that, like with school and stuff. But sorry. But yeah. Uh, of course, there's also like a lot of these things. Just that basic fear of everything that can hurt you as a kid. You know, you're kind of powerless against it. You know, you're a kid. You realize, like you when you're a kid, you kind of over exaggerate what you're capable of, but there's also like a sense of realism. You know, you know, uh, you know that you do have limits, especially compared to adults. At least I did. I was pretty humble in some areas at sometimes when I was like realistically. Of course, I'd boast about, oh, I bet I can be stronger than you. I bet, you know. But yeah, I should finish the Ape Canyon story. But at the end, they managed to hold off until morning because all this happened, like the Bigfoot harassment at the camp or the cabin, was at night. They started packing their stuff up, and on the way down, they kind of saw one, like kind of in front ahead of them, and they shot it. They shot the they shot the thing. Purportedly tumbled down the canyon again, because of course they thought this thing was gonna attack them, and they left. They've never been back, and as far as I know, it's completely unconfirmed of whether it's actually a real story. Partially, just because no one's ever actually found the canyon in question. They never found the cabin, really anything to point out like that was that real. They just gotta kind of take out the miners, the prospectors' word for it. And as far as I know, there was like some details. I'd look this up yourself. Like it's a very interesting story, but there are some details that kind of lead into it being credible. Because I think there's a bit of a desire, like for the prospectors, that they don't want to return because it was so horrifying. And I think there was also something, how like they all took it to their graves that it was real. None of them ever came out and was like, yeah, we all made up the entire thing. You think that'd be something you do when you die. I mean, if I made up a story about like alien abductions I got really famous for, I'd at least like be like, I lied. I didn't actually get abducted by aliens on my deathbed. You know? Just because at that point, there's no point in keeping up the lie. Because you're not around to enjoy the benefits of, life. Like money and stuff. But yeah. It's just kind of a little credible, I think, in my opinion. Of course, you know, that's only my opinion. Of course, now I'm much more skeptical of things. I try to look at like possible explanations, although I am interested. It's like, oh, that could easily, I'm not as gullible. I don't think especially with shows, you know, with TV shows, it's like most of it is just exaggerated crap. I remember watching that one Mountain Men one where they're kind of various cryptids, and I remember thinking, I think that's where it started actually, because I remember thinking, oh my god, this is such bullcrap. I think it'd also be a few other things I'm not sure about. Yeah. But yeah. Bigfoot so far. That terrifies me. We're gonna take a quick break. Uh, we're about almost halfway through. We'll go into a few more things that kind of scared me at the time, more about the past with all that stuff towards the end. And I have a very special announcement at the end, so keep going, and I will see you back in a few minutes. Alright, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that quick 5 minute break. I hope you used it to, I don't know, maybe complete some stuff. I don't know, maybe go to the bathroom. That's what I did. I literally just went to the bathroom, drank a bit more water. You know, talking for an hour straight. But where were we? We're in Ape Canyon, talking about how the idea of monsters attacking me, but it wasn't just Bigfoot. There were many other stories. I remember even the ideas of real remaining dinosaurs terrify me is because there are many stories of people encountering other monsters. Things like Mothman and the Yowie, despite being in all the way in, what was it, Australia. The idea terrified me. Other things such as the Chupacabra. Now, I was in an area outside of the range of these reported sightings, these reported creatures, but they still terrified me, because it was just the overall, not just the creatures themselves, just the overall idea that these things are out there, that they might come after me, that at any moment, not because of any rhyme or reason, I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But these moments, these creatures terrified me all the time. Of course, yet they still intrigue me. I don't know why, despite being so terrified. Maybe it's a thrill. Maybe maybe it was something else. All these things terrified me. And of course, the more I read into them, they just terrified me even more. Without, they just, it's just how it was. Other creatures, swamp creatures, big alligators, abnormal, simple things, stories of Wendigo, crazy people who could possibly be in my neighborhood, who could probably see me as their next victim, for no other reason other than I was the next person they saw. To this day, this intrigue still sticks. I still watch many videos and such from more eligible, not just random stuff on YouTube, but more eligible, goes over it, thinks about the possibilities kind of stuff on YouTube. You know, not just some person being like, oh yeah, I saw a ghost, and you know, the wind blew something. You know, that's it. Or, you know, their door closed, when really that's just changes in pressure, which is a little iffy at times, depending on like the weight of the door, but yeah. Or things like ghost. Let's see, Chupacabra. How do we draw a Chupacabra? I mean, I guess it depends on your belief on what Chupacabra is. Really? If you ask your average, crypto, it's basically just a dog with like some disease. You know? And people being like, oh, this is, but there's actually really interesting story about the Chupacabra. It's more comes from, it's like, just look up origins of like the Chupacabra, and you're gonna hopefully come across something where it's like less of the dog creature and more of like some lizard-like creature, kind in this small island area. Yeah. Other things like Mothman, you know, definitely terrify me because it's like a big moth. Moths are already creepy enough when they're like in your house trying to get out constantly. You know, I don't need a I don't need a big one that has like human limbs and everything. That's even now that's kind of creepy. But yeah, many things terrify me. Out in the woods, um, monsters. I even remember there are reports in that book of living dinosaurs, which this is the one thing where, despite it being like so crazy, part of me actually like believes it's kind of like the Loch Ness monster kind of thing. It's like I have greatly outgrown, like, I think not 99% of anything involving the Loch Ness monster is BS. But yet, for some reason, I cannot like fully outright come out and say, "Oh, I think the Loch Ness monster is fake," because there are just so many sightings, and people kind of just say like, "Oh, maybe it's a plesiosaur somehow survived," but I think it's more like something else. And there's also a kind of thing about other sea monsters being reported. You know, I don't know. This is supposed to be a dinosaur. I don't know where it went. But that made me a bit afraid of the ocean. Of course, I live in the mainland, and I know most of those things are like deep sea. But yeah, they're still like a bit of a terrifying. They weren't as terrifying as everything else. Like I said, deep sea, everything. Of course, if I was in deep sea, like I'd probably be super terrified. I mean, look, think about the Kraken. You know, it's like we've all kind of like accepted that it's just early reports of giant squid. They're dragging people down. It's horrifying. That's another thing. I used to believe in the actual existence of mermaids. I don't anymore. I do think there's something that like could be mermaid-like some sort of intelligent sea creature. Cause dolphins are pretty intelligent, but I don't know what if there is such a thing. I doubt it really resembles humans that much. You know, it could easily just be a full-on fish. And of course, we know something about mermaids most likely being manatees, which honestly, I think that explanation is a little weird. Because you look at a manatee, right? How do you mistake that for a person? And I guess how they're portrayed, like sitting on rocks, maybe you could. But you think you wouldn't say anything like, oh, it's a person. You wouldn't say, oh, it's half human, half fish, unless you got a real good look at it. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of going over early interest in cryptids right now. I do have, like I said, interest in a lot of things. I did try going looking for Bigfoot a few times. Of course, I didn't really know how. Like, really, if you want a genuine Bigfoot hunt, you gotta spend like months in a single space, and like it has Bigfoot sightings. You can't just go in for a few nights. And even so, it has to be a bit off the grid, I think. You know, to really actually like lure in something like that. You know, because I'm pretty sure Bigfoots are pretty smart. Pretty sure. But honestly, I even recorded my Bigfoot hunts, like somewhere on some old camera. There's footage of me going around like this and being like, oh my god, I wonder if we're gonna see any evidence of Bigfoot. And it's like right next to a freaking highway. And although it was a little in depth, like there are stories of Bigfoots on highways, but yeah, I think there were still a few where it was a bit ways into the forest, but of course it's still nothing. You gotta go really off the grid if you want to find, if you even want a chance. And although there are some cases, like of people seeing something of relatively, you know, well, not like so off the grid, but like in mountain towns. There is. I don't know if I want to talk about this because it could give away where I live. Well, I guess it doesn't matter, it's just the state. But in Colorado, I visited this town called Bailey. It was quite the drive. We like stayed the night and there afterwards. My mom and I went to Bailey. We went on a hike, and we went to the Bigfoot outpost. No, wait, no, we went to the Bigfoot outpost because I guess they have a ton of sightings there, and so one guy like made this Bigfoot outpost with like all sorts of things, a bit of actual evidence, a bit of merchandising. It is a very, and they got like a mini museum, and it's not, you don't have to pay to go in there, so I guess that's a little credible. But I do think like the person who made it is genuinely like somewhat interested, you know. But yeah, uh, really cryptid stuff. Now, of course, I would continue this, you know. Yeah. Back to my childhood, right? So, in about a few years, well, I guess it started like even back then, but it'd be more prevalent a few years when I would enter middle school. But there's this one house, right? And they went really over the top with their Halloween decorations. You know? They had really good Halloween decorations. I think they were definitely, if there was like a contest, I definitely pick them as one of the winners. They had a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was pretty realistic too. That's another reason why. And this is where we get into it. So, you know the classic doll on a swing set? They had one of those in it, and it was pretty close to the sidewalk. And it was one of those dolls, you know, classic head turned around, you know, smiling. And in middle school, right, my bus stop was changed to have to pass this area. I would have to like pass his house every day. And of course, it's in October, and so it's a little dark by the time I'm getting to my bus stop. If I remember correctly, I had to get there at like 6:15ish, maybe a little later, 6:30. But of course, it's 6:30. It's incredibly dark out, and here I am passing this thing. You know, all by myself. No one else is around. And of course, there are all the other Halloween decorations, but I don't know what it was about this doll, but it creeped the heck out of me. I would cross the street every time I came across a house. Like, I would be normal, because, sure, there were a few other Halloween decorations that definitely creeped me out, like literally right across the street, but not as much as this doll. So I'd like literally keep going right here, and then cross the street right there, and it was just so creepy. Unfortunately, I think at a certain point they moved. Also, I no longer took that bus route. Like I either, yeah. So it was a combination of as soon as I reached high school, I went to a different bus stop for each, you know, each day, and also I would of course like start driving. But I think there's still a few times during the Halloween months where I would pass that house, but I think the people moved because I didn't really see too many Halloween decorations any, after like a certain point. Or, you know, maybe it was purely just me not going there anymore and I just didn't think about it too much. But, yeah, this thing creeped the heck out of me. Didn't help how hyper realistic it looked. Like, it looked like a lot like an actual person. And, with like most stuff, they kind of have this, like, with most Halloween decorations, they kind of have a plasticky feel or whatever, like, material thing they're made of. This one did it. It looked, and I would come close to it too. Like I looked at it, it looked real to me. You know, it looked, and of course it's a. There's also it looked like a person, but of course the bit of plasticky can be like it looks like a haunted doll. You know, I don't know. It just looked real realistic, and it creeped me the heck out. I thought it was gonna pass it. It was gonna come to life, and then of course all the other things on the house would come to life, and they were also hyper realistic, and I'd be screwed. You know. They'd wake up one day and like see this little 10-year-old or say 13 14-year-old, you know, killed by their doll, killed by their Halloween decorations. Yeah, that's another thing. Halloween decorations, sometimes they really got me. I remember, of course, this was like when I was 6. There was this one house that had like a big, grim, like to go through, you'd have to go through this like very big Grim Reaper like type thing, you know. Dang, all of these images are in black and white only. Inking practice, but you'd have to. So there's one house. It kind of was like that. You'd have to go through something like this, you know. This area down here would be the doorway, and it'd be a looming Grim Reaper type thing standing over you. And it looked like it was looking down, and of course the scary music didn't help. I don't know why. I don't know why, like, scary music, even in real life, like, emphasizes it, the idea that there's actually something, but it does. Yeah. 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 I remember those, like, everyone's had the little person who you think is a Halloween decoration and they turn out to be real and they come up and they scare you. But everyone's had that. That's like not a unique thing that happened in my neighborhood. I do remember this one time though. This was middle school. I went trick or treating with a friend and his friends, and we saw it was around the same time as that clown thing was going around, I think. And we saw some kid dressed as a clown actually. And we got the kid to chase our friend because he was scared of clowns, and he ran all the way back to the house that we were trick or treating from. It was so, it was so funny because we were probably like, I'd say half a mile away, at least. Well, even that might, maybe like a quarter. I'd say we're a pretty significant distance down the street from the house that we were my friend's house who we were trick or treating from, and he ran all the way back down there, and we were chasing the dude chased. I really gotta give props to the kid in the clown costume because he chased him all the way back. Well, I don't think all the way back. Like, I think he stopped halfway, and all of us were running after him. Afterwards, we were like, it was a good laugh. It was a good laugh. I miss trick or treating. Unfortunately, like, new spot and stuff. New, not really. And of course, things that have been going on these past 2 years. Uh, you know, I'm not gonna name it, but you know, trick or treating's been a little hard to do. hopefully we do get a bit of trick-or-treaters. I do have a bag of candy, but that's mostly for myself. Probably half the bag on actual Halloween tomorrow, and just the other half just spread it out across however long, just whenever I feel like a snack. They're Kit Kats. I've already had one, of course, because I got these on bag. No. Kit Kats, not sponsored by the way. Kit Kats, you should sponsor me. Eat Kit Kats. Kit Kats, truthfully are. I probably can take these out of the fridge now. I put it in the fridge because I was like, oh, it's gonna be 2 weeks. They're probably gonna melt by then. Yeah. Kit Kat's best candy bar. Not gonna lie. You know what? I'm gonna eat this Kit Kat right on stream just to make you jealous. I miss having a trash can under my desk. Good stuff. Kit Kats. If anyone who works for Kit Kats is watching, contact me, because I will literally sing praises. Because Kit Kat, in my opinion, is the best candy, or the best chocolate bar. It's just something. It's just something about that crunch and that breaking pieces apart. Like, it's so simple. It's so simple. Kit Kat bars. Yeah. Can't wait till tomorrow. I'll eat the rest of that bag, or at least half of the rest of that bag, and watch some scary movies and videos with my friends. Yeah. It's gonna be pretty lit. Now, our next and probably final, before I kind of give a whole speech about stuff, how I thought about the scary stuff beforehand, comes from even earlier in my childhood than anything else. I think this was my really first big thing. Now, to tell you the story, I'm gonna admit, even before I had, I got into the supernatural stuff, I had already had like a bit of insomnia. I definitely had a bit, and I think it was just an energy thing. You kids have a lot of energy. They just kind of think like that. Yeah, you know. And so I definitely was up late a lot before, and basically what I want to say is me getting little sleep wasn't simply just because I was scared. It was also just insomnia as well. Basic insomnia. I remember one night, it was my old house, not the house that. It was the house before. How do I say this? Okay, so right now I'm living in a dorm now, but my house, which I consider myself living in, is, where my mom and my sister live. Because, that's where I grew up, that's where all my stuff is. Well, not all my stuff, of course, I brought the essentials with me, but like my Legos and everything, all of that is in that house. But this was when I lived in where I lived before, and I lived in like one of those townhouses where it's like a bunch of houses connected. I mean, it's like vertical, kind of. One of these houses, you had the door and stuff. But anyways, that's not important. I remember being in my room, and this was kind of my sister had started moving her bedroom into the basement. Because she was growing older. I think if I was 5 at the time, she would have been 11, so she was probably entering puberty. Uh, so, she wanted her space. And I was alone, now staring at this. And on the window, I saw a very mysterious creature kind of come in, crawling across the window, uh, and then crawl away. And it kind of, wrong side of the thumb, kind of disappeared as quickly as I remember, and yeah, yeah, thinking about it now, it is definitely very creepy. Now, here's the funny part. I did not think, I remember when I saw this, I think I thought something along the lines of either Spider-Man or ninjas. Ninjas, I believe, at most. But I think just Spider-Man, just because I was a big fan of it at the time, and I feel like it would have made sense to see it crawling across. But honestly, I think the pose is a little scuffed here, of course, to fit it in. But definitely looked like this. It looked like it was crawling across everything. The only reason I don't like attribute it to just my imagination or a dream is because, well, one, I vividly remember it. Two, how? How could this have just been my imagination? What would I have seen? Like, realistically, what would I have seen to indicate that, to think that a human is crawling across my window? Like, there aren't really anything that I can imagine like this. It was terrifying, dude. It was terrifying, and of course the moon's hitting it in a way where you can like clearly see the silhouette. And like I said, at the time, did not really consider paranormal stuff. I thought it was ninjas and Spider-Man, so I wasn't really that scared. And I didn't even realize it till like years later. I think even like high school. I was thinking about like something, I can't remember. We were supposed to write like a childhood fear. And I was kind of thinking more. This was sophomore year, I believe. So I was kind of I wouldn't want to do like late elementary school or middle school. So I was trying to think earlier than that, and I just remembered this. And I was like, yeah, that was really creepy. Wait, what? That happened? It was kind of like that realization where I suddenly remembered it. And I still don't know what that could have been. I don't know if it was ghosts, aliens, or some other creature. Maybe an actual person. But I just don't know. I saw this when I was like 6, 5, maybe even 4. Basically, the point is, I was incredibly young. I think I was still in kindergarten or first grade when this happened. Well, it just kind of dawned upon me years later, like, holy crap, that could have been something that wasn't ninjas, and it was just like it's like when you, it's kind of like when you remember, I don't know, like, it was, how do I describe this? So it was kind of like when someone asks if you've been somewhere, and you're trying to think, and you're like, oh yeah, I have been there, like, it was when I was really young. It was kind of that moment, where it's like, did I see an alien? Did I see a ghost? What did I see then? And this is naivety, right? It was a very, very naive time, and I'm gonna go into this. So, before I got into that supernatural, before that, around like fifth or fourth grade, when I picked up that Alien book, picked up those ghost books and stuff. These were all like basically just movies. Like I am pretty sure I'd seen movies like Signs or Close Encounters with my parents at some point, but I think to me they were still just movies. The same way like Superman, Batman, all that stuff were like just movies. Or if they're one of them's real, they're all real. You know, I thought they were all real. I thought we were safe because of course we got Superman, Batman flying around to protect us. But so it was never really an actual like thing like, oh, these are real. These impact could it hurt me. Even like other things. And I don't mean to be critical, you know. She did definitely like tell me to take precautions, but there would be a lot of times where I like play out in my neighborhood alone. Uh, like I said, it was one of these like upright, houses. I think they're called townhouses. Yeah. But anyways, there was a front area where I would play with like other kids, and there was a back area where like there was our backyard and then a field. And I'd either be in one of those places all the time. And it never like could have occurred to me. Like I knew stranger danger, but I didn't think. I thought as so long as you just avoided doing stuff, you'd be fine. Like not that you wouldn't be vulnerable to just someone coming up and randomly taking you. It was that kind of thing. It's definitely just naivety things, they're always heroes and stuff, cops, all that kind of stuff. You don't really consider it. You're not a kid. You don't notice these things. You're just out there to live your life and stuff. So it never really dawned upon me until I read the books that they were actually like things to be afraid of, like genuinely. Of course, I was still afraid of things. It was just like always just a joke to me. I don't know, like I don't even know how to explain it properly. It was just I never really thought about it. You know, when I at that age, I was kind of more like when going to bed, I was kind of thinking about funny stuff and action stuff and like, like other things that did not involve paranormal. I knew of them. Like I said, I'd watched like some alien movies and stuff with like parents or grandparents before. But yeah, it's like reading that book was definitely a turning point in my life. Because, like I said, it's like you have this realization like this actually happens. Like, how, what's something that we know for sure actually happens? Okay, I'm gonna make a comparison. So, like campfire stories, you know? Someone tells a campfire story and stuff, and then later you hear a story, like you read a story, and it's very similar to that camp story. It's like, wait, that was real. That I thought that was just made up or exaggerated or whatever, but like something like this actually happened. Like just recently, I watched a video of a series of murders that would inspire the Scream movies, and it was just that situation where it's like, wait, something like this actually happened. There was someone like going around and doing, of course, like they didn't mimic everything from Scream. There's like a certain bit of it, but like someone was actually doing something similar to this. That's terrible. That's awful. That's horrifying. you know, just things like just in that kind of feeling. we realize it's real. And yet, still infatuates me. I still want to see everything here. I want to see aliens. I want to see Bigfoot. I want to see ghosts. I want to see Mothman. I want to see cryptids. Even if I know it's dangerous. You know? It's just that latent curiosity. And you know, you can argue, oh yeah, curiosity kills a cat, but I don't know. Like, there's still a need to explore. Still a need to find the unknown and everything. But, yep. Huh. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it for Halloween for the most part. I wanna, at least in terms of Halloween stuff, I'm really glad, I'm really grateful for everyone sticking by me through the month. Starting next week, hopefully we're gonna do more normal stuff, not just like things like this where I talk to you guys a bunch and tell you a bunch of stuff. Actual like full drawings again, because you know, like I said, I want to present to you guys something meaningful and everything. And I hope everyone stays safe tomorrow. I unfortunately don't have a costume. I left my Freddy Krueger costume back in Colorado, so I don't have it. You know, I don't have money to get a new costume, unfortunately, which sucks. But I will be watching a horror movie, and I don't know which one yet. I'm gonna be watching it with my friends, probably over like Discord. Send me some recommendations of something really scary I can watch. I'll be watching like a bunch of scary videos too. Alright. I do have one more quick announcement before we head out. Commissions! I'm gonna start taking commissions in November. Yay! I'm gonna have more info on this coming soon, but I just want to say for now, I feel like I'm at a good point where I can start being like, hey, you guys want to ask me to draw you something for money? Like, I have a good audience. Last week we reached 100 followers on Instagram, and as far as I can tell, in terms of active ones, we also have a bunch on Twitter. Not as much on Instagram, of course, because we haven't been doing that as long. And I'm not really sure about how to advertise on Twitter. I know. There's a whole thing. But, yeah. We're going to do commissions. I feel like I have a decently sized audience. I'm going to have more info on that come in next weekend. And, yeah. Of course, not going to make a bunch of money. This is just a bit of extra money I want to make, you know. Because I've gotten a few requests over the past few months. Or just past month, I should say. Like, earlier, someone asked me to draw them a thumbnail for their YouTube video. They paid me $25. This was on a site. I already have, like, a commission site on one of those, which I'll link. But I'll have, like, multiple methods. Try not to exclude it. I think the only one I won't do that's popular is PayPal, because it's just, I don't know, there's something with PayPal that kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I already have other methods, you know. But yeah, I'll have more details on that. I don't expect to be like get hounded with requests instantly, but it is something I just want to do and kind of, you know, make a bit of extra money, get more, like, you know, people want to draw. It'll be relatively cheap. I don't think it'll be more than like $30 max. Of course, like, there's a bunch of calculations, like time, profit, everything. I think of like one thing where it's like kind of a lot like what we did here, where I just do kind of quick drawings, you know, like sketches. Over another one where it's like base colors or base shades. depending on which, if you want in black and white or color. And then I'll have another one for like full things, like the subject and a scenery, all with color and shadows. But yeah, that's our weekly announcement. Hopefully we'll get back to like doing full art next weekend. Hopefully. Like I said, I can't guarantee. Like I've stated before, as much art as I already have ready, I have enough to like. The whole reason I wanted to stream again, I want to be able to stream, post the artwork I did on stream, on that Monday and Tuesday. Uh, but as much art as I have right now is enough to last me all the way halfway through December, not counting my 100 original monsters. But I do want to get in it. Like maybe I just do stream. That takes up my Monday, Tuesday time slot. The rest of the art does that, and that will help me do a bunch of stuff. Might work on a few more projects. I've been working on like some character designs for a comic idea, but because it's like still a little early for that kind of thing in my case, like in terms of time management. Lately, of course, on like weekend, I've been having a very enjoyable time just being able to work on stuff, draw whatever I want. You know, some of it's post worthy, some of it's just practice stuff, but in the end, I don't know how to describe this, but in the end, it's just like stuff for me, and especially the stuff if I want to go with what I'm planning on doing, like my schedule thing, where like I do the full drawings on weekends, and I work on like projects and practice on weekdays. The thing about that is like on weekdays I've kind of been coming back and just feeling tired because of school and stuff. But yeah. Uh, Anyways, everyone have a happy Halloween. Be safe. Remember to keep social distancing. I know most people are probably like good on that. They're I've been vaccinated. I know a lot of people have been vaccinated. But dude, kind of be safe a little. Even so, there are some people who might still be a little worried about that. Uh, might not be vaccinated for one reason or the other. And even without that, there is a bunch of scary stuff, that can happen. I know it's unlikely, but do check your candy. Not that like I don't think people are going to the extent where they're like putting bad stuff in the candy wrappers, but maybe, you know, maybe they went up to a little bit of suspicious house and they gave them the apple. You know, don't bug anyone if their porch light isn't on. Don't stay up too late. I'm sure this is little inconvenient. I hate whenever this happens, but with Halloween on a Sunday, you probably got stuff to do the next day. And, if you want, maybe you can cozy up with a nice Halloween movie, like a scary movie at the end of it. And just enjoy yourself. Alright? Thank you, everybody. See you next week.